Hey folks, it's time to kind of get started, gather in, we'll get going. Good afternoon. This is Tuesday, it's the 31st of March, 2015, and it's the 42nd CALLERLAB Convention in Springfield, Missouri. We are here, this is the session that is called Square Recovery or Dancer Recovery, and we're glad you took the time to come on out. I know we just had lunch, so I'm going to be a moving target to kind of keep you awake. And I'll just kind of dodge and move and whatever it takes. My name is Tim Marriner. I'll be the moderator. We have panelists that are here on my side, Mr. Bill Harrison and Bryan Clark. Let's give them both a nice hand. This is a session that is a duplicate of last year. A lot of people were jazzed to see that it was a topic offered again and want on the critique sheet. So here we are trying to top what they did last year. So it's we're going to get a square in a little bit, kind of to show you some things. But as a quick overview, I'll start some things and kind of tell you some stuff about square recovery or dancer recovery. In my opinion, when we teach dancers, we need to not only teach them calls and styling and a little history and ethics and all of those things, but somewhere along the way, we also need to teach them what to do if something happens and they break down. And the more we call and the more intricate things get and evolve, then that chance happens. It increases with the complexity of what we offer. So from the get-go, I express or explain what couples are. And I'll say, you know, not only are you taking hands with the person beside you, but you're holding inside hands as a couple, and you're in a normal couple arrangement where there is a lady on the man's right side. Ladies, you have a guy on your left. And if you express that this is the normal couple arrangement and sort of hit them on that on occasion, you're normal couples, they say, what's normal, all right? You get that sometimes. But the idea that when you ask for something normal and that it isn't, you would hope that they would normalize things and that it's okay to fix things on the fly. So by teaching these things from the beginning, you're creating good dancing habits or dancer habits, and hopefully they'll be able to maintain and have more proficiency the more they dance. Along the way, of course, you're talking about hand holds, hand availability, and all of those things that we teach with styling. It all adds up. So somewhere along the way, we move them through formations. We start in circles, go to squares, we morph into stars, we get on grids, and we get them into waves. And the more we get them involved with all these different formations, there's a chance that somebody can get turned around. If we've never given them the fix of how to recover, they won't know what to do but stand there and try to figure out what went wrong. Where I believe our panels, our panelists and myself, I believe we think, instead of worrying about what happened, let's worry about what the future holds. Where are you now, and how do we get out of that, or how do we resolve the scenario and move forward so everybody can keep dancing? The goal is to maintain the dance. Let them keep dancing. I think it's important when you teach things that you tell the dancers, you tell the new dancers that on a symmetrical playing field, 99% out of the time, if 0.9 probably, you're always square to a wall. It's very rare that a caller will leave you on a bias, looking in the corners, okay? Now, I say that knowing that Bryan Clark, of course, can put you on the bias and in and out of that bias in a hurry. But most of the average callers in the dance world today, and the dancers today, are going to apply that after the end of each action, you are facing a wall. You're not looking at a corner. If I want the dancers to be on the bias, and I set it up like the head gent with your corner girl on the diagonal, move up to the middle and back. Well, I've set that up ahead of time. They know something strange. It's kinky or whatever. It's going to be a gimmick, or we're going to play differently. But On the average dance floor, again, as long as they're aware of that, now you don't have dancers kind of drifting around or standing and milling and looking. And one of the worst things that can happen is you've called a series of calls and they just talk. Like, well, I think I belong over there, and I don't know, I'm over here, and aren't you guys, and I think, well, over there, and they're just milling around, have not a clue what's going on with the rest of the room, and some are standing still, oblivious of anything happening around them. So that's what you don't want. What we want is a two-way street. The dancers need to know that they can form a formation that the rest of the room looks like. If it's one square, then we have problems. Or that the caller, and to tell the caller that we're going to square up, or we're going to slide to the right and make lines, or we're going to wait for you to tell us we're okay to get started again in dancing. Hey, either one of you guys want to jump in with anything I'm saying? This is not a monologue, so
okay.
You're
doing well.
Thank you.
Okay, but notice that Tim just said about sliding over and making lines. That's kind of like our universal one. Okay, it's the is it the side couples?
The head couples would slide over, turn a quarter wall, and push the sides down to the back so that there is a line facing from the sides of the room. Okay. They're facing on the sides. You would have standard 1P, 2P lines or a partner line scenario.
Yeah. But that could happen anywhere. It doesn't happen, if you go ahead. If you talk to your dancers and you teach them to make a line, and usually you'll hear the caller say, and we have lines, go forward and back. I'm sure all of you utilize that. That's one process. Another process that you could talk to your dancers about is to try to form quickly if half of a square breaks down. And normally that's what we see most of the time. That one half breaks down and the other half is still going. So what you do as a caller is keep that half going, and you're hoping that maybe you've taught your folks that this half over here has to make what these people have. Okay? So if they end up in a wave, then make a wave. And now the key is, does it necessarily have to be the same type of wave, boys on the end, girls in the middle? It doesn't, and that'll come later on.
And if you look at what happens when something breaks down, let's take it to the smallest form. One person's out of position. One person's looking at somebody's shoulder or looking a reversed facing direction, whatever the case may be. One person scenario, you would hope that an up to the middle and back, and if you're looking out, turn around or something like that, can be called to turn that one individual around or to let them see the other sets around you so they can fix that one person. Then the next step would be one couple would be sashayed or traded or looking out. And again, that same game of move forward and back, or those looking out partner trade. You can call those types of things, especially if they're a normal couple looking out. You could say, move forward to the middle and back, and if you're looking out, do a partner trade. And they'll do it, and then the whole floor is now back to dancing again. And if they realize they're looking out. Okay. Then the next step along that way might be three people or two couples, because you can have different scenarios. Three on one side didn't get it and one on the other side. But now we have maybe two couples that are out. And this is what Bill just said. It's possible that side of the set is no longer symmetrical to the rest of the square, and they're 90-degree out. And a quick fix is they can look at the other side of the room or look at the other squares and say, wow, we need to be over here. And they just turn the whole set a quarter. If they're capable of doing and seeing that in a quick time, we call that recovery. Do they get their partner back at the end? Maybe not. And that's not a big deal, because we've expressed at the end of that they're dancing, and at the very end of the pattern, they go home. They, not with a new or strange person, they veer home, let go, and come back to their home set. Clean slate, etch-a-sketch, everything's good to go. And they start. Because if you let the dancers know or assume it's okay to be broke down and with the wrong people when they square up, they'll never get the sense or satisfaction that they've accomplished a sequence, whatever the next sequence might be. So that's really important to let them know. They have some rules they have to learn. The dancers can slide to the right and make a line. Why is it better for slide right to a line, for the heads to slide over to make lines at the sides than across the heads? It has nothing to do with sequence. It has to do with 8 people staring the caller down to let them know that we're not moving. If they're back to you, you only have 4 people staring them. And the others have their heads looking the other way or turned around and looking at you. But at the sides of the hall, they're all staring at the caller. We want to dance now. And we'll say, we'll give a clue. Oh, in a minute, we'll have, or stay with me. I'll be right with you. Or you can just know that you have 2 or 3 calls to get them to lines. And then say, hey, we have lines, everybody forward and back. And they're dancing. Does it have to be the perfect partner line? No. If that happens, that would be nice. It could happen that you're a bend the line away from there or something. It could happen. But if not, we know that at the end of the sequence, that square is going to go ahead and just let go and veer home. That's a German call, by the way. And they all, did you know that? It's called veer, ja, to veer home. Ja, veer home. And you ask them, did you make it home? Ja, to veer home. So veer home is a good German call. And at any rate, it's one of those deals where then you have 3 couples out, which means you have more going on that you have to do. There's a chance the rest of the room is wrong, but probably they need to try to fix something. And then they have to figure out, is it worth trying to repair it, or should we just veer home? And at that point, somebody might make the decision to say, hey, I'm going home because I'm totally lost. So they're going to veer home and then wait to get to the sliding to make a line, and we're off and running again, okay? So on the two-way street, so far what we're discussing is the responsibility of the dancers. And we as callers need to train the dancers to know that they have some responsibility of figuring it out. It is a puzzle we're offering in the patter side of things, and that's the game for them to figure. On the other side of the equation, however, is what callers can do that can repair things on the fly. And this is what I'd like to pass to the guys to kind of start kicking off and describing some of these items. You will be amazed. If all you're doing is boys fold from lines looking out, there's a lot of things that can be done other than that. So we turn it over to the panelists and we'll discuss. Now, mind you, this is a recorded session, so if something needs to be said, you have a question, please raise a hand. We'll get the wireless out to you so you can state your name, where you're from, and everything's going to be perfect in that regard. So, all right, guys.
Okay, so we talked about, maybe having one side where the half of the squares broke down and what have you like that, trying to maybe look at what the other side happens to have at the moment if it was a wave. If that wave happened to be on the other side, a boy, girl, girl, boy wave, and this wave over here said, oh, they have one, but, oh, I have girl, boy, boy, girl. Don't stress on that because, a boys run and those facing out, California twirl or partner trade, whatever, is going to make lines go forward and back, things like that. So that's what you can utilize in your processing, and a very easy one, okay? Anytime that you end up in those situations, you can always try and use a run to get people normalized as a couple and then decide who's facing out. And if you California twirl them or partner trade them, then you have lines facing back in. You can continue to dance, and it doesn't affect the rest of the squares. There are some that you're going to run into, which Bryan is probably going to go into a little more deeply, that they're not as easy to pick out that way. Okay, these are the golden ones when you see this happen. So we know that we have the first method is sliding out and making the line. We have square recognition where you have, we call them half-broken squares. So what they can do is make the same type of thing, be it a line or an ocean wave or whatever. But you have to train your folks to do that, okay? They have to recognize that. All right. Any questions to this point? No? Good. Bryan?
Okay. So one of the reasons I'm here is I am famous for calling stuff that breaks floors down. As a caller who tends to walk on that edge, I prefer that the dancers don't break down. I would like them to dance everything I call, and unfortunately, it doesn't happen. But as a caller who cares about the dancers and wants them to actually make it through stuff, I also realize that the things that they break down on doesn't really break their whole square. They're not actually really broken. They might be out of sequence, they might be sashayed with somebody, they might have been traded with somebody, but they're not really broken. They're still dancing. They're still out on the floor wandering around and doing stuff that I call.
Slightly dented.
Slightly dented might be the way it works, yeah. So anyways, over the years, I've discovered a method of being able to fix squares while calling to the whole floor without having to, point out to people. Because one thing I found out as a youngster, when people are pointed out, like you say, "Hey, Janice, can you trade with your husband?" And all of a sudden, Janice is like, "Oh my God, he said my name over the microphone," and they just hate that, or at least some people hate that. Some people don't mind it so much, but as a caller who travels and goes around, if you find out their name because it's on their badge, you may not know what that person likes, and you may accidentally insult them by calling them out from the stage. So I was taught never to call anybody out from the stage, because if you point somebody out, they're just not gonna. They may not like it, and they'll tell their friends that you're a horrible caller. Other than the fact that you just broke them down, and then you called them out because they're the ones who screwed up the square. So I prefer not to do that. I'll call for the whole floor, and I will try to fix whatever's broken. And the funny part is, and this is the weird part. When you people see what we do here, I'm not going to do anything outside of the mainstream program. We're not going to talk about anything advanced or challenge. Everything we're going to do here is mainstream. On the A1 list, they have a call called brace through. It used to be called half breed through. That call is only useful for standard couples. And what it does is it takes a sashayed couple and turns it into a standard couple. And it's a handy tool, but it only does the one thing. What I'm going to show you here works for same sexes, for opposite sexes, anything that might be screwed up. So the first basic I need to show you, let's get one opposite sex couple on the floor. A boy and a girl. A volunteer. One couple. One couple. Okay? So what you need to see is the mechanics. Can you guys, let's have the girl do a U-turn back. Perfect. So if we have a right-handed setup, any right-handed setup, and you ask the boys to run, what does that do for us? Go. Boys run. It standardizes the couple. It puts the boy on the bow side. So he's on the, sorry, I'm using an advanced term. The boy is on the left-hand side of the coupleship, which is what we consider to be normal couples. Let's have the boy do a U-turn back. Okay? So inversely, if I have the girl run around the boy, what does that do? Okay? So from a left-handed formation, if the girls run, it creates a standard formation. From a right-handed wave, if the boys run, it makes a standard formation. These are important things that you need to know about these calls. Because once we start getting into this is going to be your crutch. This is going to be the thing that you need to know. Another thing that's a very easy crutch is this. Girl fold. Okay, star through. Oh look, we've got a normal couple. Can you guys bend to face that way again? Good. Boy fold. Star through. Bend to face that couple. Or bend to face the outsides. Okay, so all I've done is I've done one thing to create normalness. And that's very simply all you need to do. It's not rocket science at all. So can we get the rest of the square up here? Get 3 more couples.
And we thank you all in advance for deciding to help out.
We need a boy. There we go. Bill will do. Okay, so let me just make sure I recognize who everyone is. Okay, so heads. Are these guys? Bill, turn around. I pointed you out on the tape. But I didn't use his last name. It could be any Bill Ackerman. Anyways, let's have the heads lead right. Veer to the left. Bend the line. Do a right and left through. Center back, do a Dixie style, do a wave. So far, you guys are doing great. Centers trade. Do a left swing through. Perfect. Girls run around the boys. All the couples circulate. Good. Do a left chain down the line. Why would he call that? What kind of a horrible guy would call that? Make a line. I don't care. Where do you think you need to be? No, don't help her. So I've called something that intentionally has broken down the square. But are they still in a line of 4? Certainly. They're still in a line of 4. I know that a left chain down the line, which includes like a reverse courtesy turn or a left courtesy turn, is kind of painful to most. And not normal, not even on your list, not even something you're supposed to know how to do. But I'll do it anyways because I think it's fun. And I think it's mainstream, yes. So what happens here is now I've got one sashayed couple, and everyone else seems normal. The ones who were normal, they actually almost completed it correctly. They didn't do it right, but they almost completed it correctly. You ended in the right spot, which is important. However, the ones who didn't end in the right spot, I don't care. Okay, there's a way we can get out of this. Okay, pass through. Most simple way, boys fold. Everybody star through. Bend the line of 4. Oh, look, we got normal lines of 4. Everyone's standardized. I haven't called anything separate. And if I called to the whole floor, they would all dance the same stuff. And I fixed that one couple. Can I have that same couple do a half sachet again, please? Just because I want to mess with you. Okay, what about this? I'm not paying any attention. I don't know what's happened. And out of the corner of my eye, I can see that they're not standard. Okay, pass through. Do a wheel and deal. All the centers pass through. Step to a wave and swing through. And out of the corner of my eye, I see, oh, look, I don't have all the boys in the center in this wave. Well, the first thing that pops to my mind is, does every boy have a girl? And in this case, it's yes. And so it kind of tells me that the ones who made the mistake are together. Okay? Boys run. What did we learn? We have standard couples. If you're facing out, do a partner trade. So I'm using what I refer to as a conditional call. When I say a conditional call, how many people here know anything about computer programming? So in computer programming, we have things called conditionals. And I say, if you meet this condition, then do this. And the easiest conditional that everybody knows here is boys run. Okay? I'm saying the boys are going to do something that I tell them to do, and they're going to complete this call. And in this case, I said, if you're facing out, so that's the condition, do a partner trade. And so they did their partner trade. Okay? Everybody passed the ocean. Now I'm going to show something that's probably a little bit weirder. Recycle. Sweep a quarter. I think you can do that. Okay? Let's have everybody in this line of 4, closest to me, do a half sachet. Good. And now the centers of this line of 4, do a half sachet. Perfect. Now where are all the heads? Put your hands up, heads. Original heads. The original heads. Okay? So you can see that they're not symmetrical. So is she your partner? Where's the heads? Your heads. Okay, so our symmetry is completely out. You can see that that's where it is. Okay?
And
pass through.
Wait a minute, before you go any further, just to make sure, can you tell them why you know they're not? Because on the heads, they should, to be symmetric, the center person has to be diagonal of the other head person. So if it's a girl, they have to be in the center. Does that make sense? And the boy has to be diagonally to the boy. Yeah, and that's not the case here. So you guys all know that.
Oh, yeah.
See, and if I could add one more thing, Bryan.
Excellent.
Pardon me. What dancers sense, we're in lines. They're not looking at boy-girl arrangement or girl-girl-boy. I'm in lines. We must be okay. And the rest of the room is in lines. We must be okay.
They might sense something isn't right.
It's possible if they're not used to 2 guys standing together and they're staring at a normal couple and they see 3 guys on their side of the set. It's possible, yes.
Yes. So from here, okay, the first thing I want to do, and I know that the symmetry is completely out. But remember, I'm going to call for the whole floor of the whole floor of dancers. And the way you're going to know that this is going to work is that the line that is normal, you're always going to stay normal. And the line that's abnormal, I'm going to fix you guys. But I'm going to call to the whole floor. Okay? Pass through. Bend the line of 4. Okay? I need to make something normal, something that I know is normal and that affects everybody. Everybody passed the ocean. Okay? The centers of each wave trade. And now what I've done is I've put a boy beside every girl. Okay? This is the first thing that I'm fixing. Okay? I'm going to fix the sex relationships. Okay? Boys run around the girls. I know. If you're facing out, notice the people who are correct are the ones that have the person facing out. The people who are incorrect, they're all facing in. Nobody knows who's made the mistake yet, although I'm pretty sure Bill knows who has. That's probably the caller. Yeah, okay? So those who are facing out do a partner trade. Perfect. So now every square on the floor has facing lines of 4, but I still have one more thing to fix, because heads, put your hands up. Are we symmetrical? No, not at all. Okay, we have like a little trapezoid of positions, and that's not ideal. And a half breathe through isn't going to fix this. Or, sorry, a brace through? Brace through, whatever they call it nowadays. Okay, from here, pass through. Do a wheel and deal. All of the centers square through 3 while the outsides do a half sachet. Perfect. Everybody is now facing the same sex, right? Touch a quarter. So what's our rule? We have a right-handed setup. So if I have a right-handed setup and I say original heads run, what does that do? That puts the heads in the left-hand position of the coupleship for everybody. So the original heads, put your hands up. Heads run around the sides. Perfect. In the normal squares, they have everybody in lines facing in. In this square, we've got 2 couples facing out, but the other couples are facing in. From here, let's have those who are facing out with the same sex do a partner trade. Perfect. So now, heads, put your hands up, please. Are the heads symmetrical? Have I done anything off the mainstream list or outside of the mainstream list? Okay? All I've done is arrange the dancers in a way that puts them together either with the same sex or with the opposite sex, and I've had a conditional call where I have the boys run or the girls run. I'll fix the sex arrangement so that they're now fixed as well. And at the same time, I'm calling to the whole floor of dancers. And, I'm not doing anything outside the mainstream list. The nice part is there's a bunch of other calls that you can use all the way up through Advanced and Challenge that enhance this and make this really cool and interesting. But there's no reason you can't do this with mainstream.
Another thing to be careful of is he's not just staring at this one square. He's looking at the whole floor, making sure what he's calling to this one square doesn't inversely or badly affect the rest of the floor.
Yes.
And he's not disregard from anything else. He hasn't called an action that is going to do like a spin chain through or something that's just going to move the dancers way across the square, take them further away. He's doing little things to get them closer to his answer.
Yes. It's puzzle solving 101 is what it is. Yes, Bill.
Didn't you call something to the heads, say heads trade or whatever it was? And heads run. Were the dancers required to know that their heads are sides? And also, suppose we had made a mistake such that we wound up the way we were. You couldn't tell from looking at sexes that anything was wrong. You'd been looking at other squares. In order to see that you needed to do this, you would have to know for all squares at all times whether the heads were symmetrical to the heads and sides to the sides.
Okay, so that's very good observation. But what I'm going to tell you, as a primary site caller and in watching squares, when I'm looking at dancers on the floor and I put dancers together, I put a boy and a girl together, and in all of the other squares they're standing by their partner, but in this square they're not, then I know that those 2 boys are out. And it's I don't know. It's something inherent in me, I guess, and eventually you'll be able to see it while you're practicing this method at your club, if you ever try to do it, because it does take practice. This doesn't happen instantly. It's not 100% easy, like I like to tell everybody it is. But what you have to do is you have to be very aware of what the dancers are doing, and I think the term they were using in the other hall is their relationship to the other dancers. And so as you're calling along, you can realize that these two dancers have switched over. Okay, and so let's.
Is it possible that we could make another square so that you could see the effect of the square does not have an error, so that you can see that they're doing fine while these folks over here, he's trying to get them to be equal to what the other square happens to be. And I think we have enough in the room to make that happen.
You want a good square, and you want me.
We want a good square and we want a bad square. So the other thing that you need to know about this technique, the other thing you need, can you guys just square up back at home and we'll get everybody going?
While they're doing their thing, Bryan, just a quick question too in this regard. Your concern is one set. Maybe both sets are out.
Yes.
Now you have another scenario to have to work on both sets. But the magic by this is when they win and they realize how bad they did the left chain down the line or whatever it was, they're kind of going, wow, how did you do that? You know, how did you make that happen? It's a great effect.
Perfect. Okay, so let's have all the heads lead to the right. Veer to the left. Bend the line of 4. Pass the ocean. I want to do something fun. Let's see. Hinge. Centers trade. Centers run around the ends. If you're facing out, do a partner trade. So in this square here, let's have the near line of 4. Have the centers do a half sachet. Okay? And now, in this square only, have the near line do a half sachet. The near line. Good. Now the centers in this line do a half sachet. So look, clearly we have a problem. Okay? We've got all the boys on one side, all the girls on the other, and you know, in my head when I see this, and it happens a lot for me. Okay? It happens a lot for me. So when I see this, I look at it as an opportunity of, oh, well, what can I do to fix this? Well, again, I want to create normalness first. So the first thing I want to do is create normal. Okay? Right now we don't have normal. We've got boys together and girls together. So everybody pass through. Bend the line of 4. So the same people who have made the mistakes are now together. And you guys are all normal. Everybody pass the ocean. The centers trade. Yes, you guys are correct. You're not normal. Okay. Now what we have is we have all of the boys standing beside girls. And I've done this on purpose. And it was very quick. I was able to see this very quickly with my eyes and say, okay, well, this is a nice way to get everyone together. All the boys run around the girls. So I'm going to fix the sex arrangements. Okay. If you're facing out, look, the good square is all facing out, and that's wonderful because you think I'm calling to the whole floor, but I'm not, because this square, they got one line facing in. If you're facing out, do a partner trade. Perfect. So I fixed one thing. Heads, put your hands up. Heads. Okay? The heads are diagonally here, but where are the heads here? Oh, we've got, you guys are correct, sorta, and you guys are not. Okay? So we still have issues. Okay? Everybody pass through. Do a wheel and deal. All the centers square through 3 while the others do a half sachet. And now look, I'm putting the same sexes together. Okay? Touch a quarter. I've given them a right-hand setup. Just for fun, everybody do a U-turn back. Normally this would kill everybody. I should have said left touch a quarter after the square through 3. Okay? So I can now identify a group, and what I'll do to make it easier is I'll say, all of the sides, put your hands up. Sides, put your hands up. Good. Sides, run around the heads. Nice. If you're facing out, which, of course, there are some of us, if you're facing out, do a partner trade. All of the heads, put your hands up. Are we symmetrical now? Are we all the same? Well, huh? You are all the same. Okay? So I basically resolved the square. And now I could cite it out, but I didn't look to see where you started. So that's all it takes to fix the square. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, yeah. But see, hold on, guys. What happened here was that not only did he take it to, he took it to the next level. He took getting you back into a standard couple arrangement. But then he went a little further and said, the heads here are symmetric. They're diagonal to each other. But over here, 2 are diagonal and 2 aren't. But I want to fix that as well. Okay? All right? And then he decided to go a little step further. And he was able to make them all the same.
But did you really go all, Bill Ackerman from Massachusetts, did you really fix us such that if you had written down corners someplace, or remembered corners, and resolved them correctly, we would actually get our corners?
Let's do it again. Square your sets.
Okay, so
now I want to see where you're starting.
Let me make sure you guys are following right along. It's a little more now when you're getting them right back. In most cases, the object would be getting them back to a standard situation and keep right on dancing. And the square that made the boo-boo, no big deal who their partner in their corner happened to be. But the rest of the floor was not affected by the fact that you took the time to fix the 1 square or whatever, the 2 that were out. So corner arrangement, partner arrangement for those was not as important. Now the second step is beyond that. Now it's become important. So kind of understand where you want to take this. I'm just cautioning you.
Okay, so let's do a fun mistake that typically might happen in your club. Let's have the head step in the middle, face your corner. Good. Touch a quarter. Okay. So sorry, I'm going to use a plus call. You all know plus? Okay. So let's all do a follow your neighbor and spread. Cool. You did spread. Good. Good. Yeah. So you guys didn't spread. Come on. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That would be fine. It's perfectly okay. And just for fun, because you screwed that up. No, stay there. Good. Just for fun, over on this side, Oz, with the center person you're holding hands with, trade with her, please. Now I've really messed you up. Okay? Now what do I do? What can I do to fix something like this? Okay, there are some calls that you can do to fix these kind of scenarios. Bend the line is a nice call, but it doesn't work so well from mini waves.
Please tell, for the tape purposes, how the arrangement is over here.
Okay, so in the arrangement over here, one of the waves, one couple didn't do a spread, and then I had the center people of that wave do a trade. It was a partner trade. We now have a facing line of 4 facing in, and the other one has the ocean wave that everybody else has. Okay? And you guys all have your corners, right? Yes. Because the funny part is I didn't look to see where I started. So you're dancing with Lynn. Okay, I got it now. I've got it now. We're perfect. Okay? So from here, let's think about what I can call to fix this. Everybody, hinge.
But see, you can't do that in the Plus program for those guys.
Hinge?
It's a partner.
It's
hinge.
half a trade.
Just
okay,
say
do half a trade.
Yeah, much better.
Which
much
is fine.
Better. Yes. So
half a trade.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment. Hinge is single hinge. Single hinge is on the program, but partner hinge is not. So
I didn't say partner hinge. I just said hinge.
No, I realize. I realize. But they were having to do it as a couple rather than as a wave action.
Yes.
But so
It's half a trade.
So it is a half a trade, and he just showed another way of doing it. Let everybody do half a trade. If the dancers know what half a trade are or what they can do, then they clearly can dance that.
Okay, so now I'm calling to the whole floor just for fun. Where are all the boys in this square? Boys. 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 So you're all real boys, right? Good.
Yes.
Nice. So remember my rules. My rules are try to create normal. Okay? Because at this point I don't know what's broken, although I kind of know what's broken. Okay? From here, scoot back. I'm calling to the whole floor. Okay? But because I know that there's an issue, okay, I'm going to make normal this way. Very simply. If you're facing out, run around the people facing in. Okay? So I know that in every other square in the hall, they have normal facing lines of 4. You guys do not. Okay? From here, yes.
Again, for the tape, you have half a box on one side of the square with 2 girls together and 2 boys together on one side, and the other box on the other side is normal. That's it. Good.
All right. So now everybody pass the ocean. Okay? The centers trade. All of the boys run around the girls, which gives us our normal couples.
Normal couples, yep.
Okay? If you're facing out, do a partner trade. Okay? All of the original heads, put your hands up. Okay? So, we have a problem in this square still.
Now this is the next, I mean, in my view, I'd be happy with this. Okay? All right? I mean, I think that's what most people are looking for, okay? Honestly, not... But now he's going to take it to the next level because he wants them to resolve to their original corner and partner just like you guys are because you have not made the mistake. So
okay. So when I'm doing the choreography, the reason why I did it the way that I do, which is pass through, wheel and deal, center square through 3, the others half sachet, because there's other ways to do that. But the reason I do it that way is I want to make sure that this square doesn't mess up anymore because I don't want to have to fix more. I just want to fix what I'm fixing. Okay? It's a pass through. Everyone pass through. Go. Wheel and deal. Okay? All the centers square through 3 while the others do a half sachet. Because my goal is to get the same sexes together. Because the sex relationship was fixed, so the boy-girl relationship was fixed, now I have to get the same sex relationships fixed to get the squares done. And because we did a left square through 3 or a right square through 3 in the middle, everyone do a left touch a quarter. Okay? Which flows nicer and is a little better. And because I want everyone to get this successfully, I'll say, heads, put your hands up. Heads, original heads, put your hands up. Good. Heads, run around the sides. Okay? Everybody balance forward and back and bend the line. Nice.
Is everybody aware why he did that? Because after that
it was horrible.
You wouldn't want to bend. And so you want something to break up the body flow,
That's
forward
right.
and back. Same thing if they touch a quarter and you want the centers to trade first before you do a bend the line. So those sorts of things.
Okay.
Star throughs.
So now let's resolve the square. Okay? Star through. Okay? Just the boys, zoom. Oh yeah, that's going to kill them too. Okay? All of the leaders, cloverleaf. Centers, do a U-turn back and box the gnat. Are you home? Is everybody home? Okay?
Hey, all right.
Do we have any questions?
Now, so the key here that you have to see when you want to get them to that process of getting the original heads back and so forth like that is the pass-through, wheel and deal part square through 3 half sachet. When you have the after the left touch a quarter or whatever.
You can do anything you want to get the opposite sexes together.
Together, right. But in this case, after the heads run, then you could have run anywhere you wanted to choreographically.
Correct.
Good.
But you do have to ask. The heads are
The only reason I ask is so that the dancers know because a lot of times they'll forget. They'll say, am I ahead? Am I? And if I don't see the hands shoot up, I'll ask again. I won't ask in Seattle, because in Seattle, when I say, where are the heads? Someone from the floor yells, don't tell him.
Oh, they know. They happen to know who the heads and sides are. There are.
They know who they are.
Yeah.
They just know that the caller wants to know.
If you're not using a lot of head side type of material and making them aware, you need to go that route and somehow use it a little bit so that people are aware that you're calling to who the heads are and sides are. So. Right.
So yeah, Tom Rayner from Tokyo. I have a question. So am I assuming too much in that there was probably a series of commands that you could do that would fix that square but might break everybody else on the floor?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And so you want to be very careful what you're doing. And that, again, you're dealing with relationships. And so it's easier, and in my head it's easier, if you normalize all the regular squares. All the squares that are dancing normally, you normalize them as best you can. Put them into normal couples, normal relationships, and then you'll see what's broken in the other square very easily. You'll see, oh yeah, these two are broken.
And here's the thing, though. We go to state conventions or national conventions, or you're calling, and I see this. I walk through the rooms, and I hear people calling, and I'm looking around, and all these squares are standing there, and they're not moving, and maybe they're trying to sight call, or maybe they're totally lost and can't find corners, and yet they dig themselves further and further in a hole. Or I see where just one couple is out of position and the caller's not seeing that or noticing that, and then they call a load the boat. So now that not just one couple is out, the whole square is gone. Okay, or you have a scenario where just one person's turned around in an 8-chain through or something, or let's say it's in that scenario of parallel waves, and the centers are turned back, are both facing, and the next thing the caller says is all 8 circulate. Well, that's going to go down the tubes further. They just they can't dance that, or maybe they just call spin chain through or something else. So you're taking a situation, instead of taking care of it, you're aggravating it worse. Okay, so when you see the scenario of a couple or two, or give them time to figure it out. Call 2 couple or 1 couple actions that are going to resolve the issue till they see it. And we have facing lines and use all those things. And then there's a point where you go, I give up. They're not doing it. It's like, okay, then I'm going to try to resolve the rest of the floor as quickly as possible, sacrificing maybe the 1 square on occasion. But there's a point. You've got a judgment issue here. Do I wish to try to play this puzzle and get everything fixed and resolved? Do I want to play the puzzle where I just get them up to the point where they're all symmetrical as such, normal couples? So that's a good point. We have a lot of questions. So are we good with the squares for a minute?
We're done.
Let's
Thank you.
Let's give the set squares a great hand. This was a good demonstration.
Yep.
Susan Morris from the Seattle area. Does the same principle work if you have like 4 squares and 2 of them break different ways?
I'm going to say yes, but with a caveat. And sometimes what happens is it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to be able to make anything normal. And so I guess the advanced scenario is, rather than working with all 8 people, sometimes you have to limit it to 4 people. So you'll put half of the people into the center of the set and fix their sex relationship, and then get them out of the centers and have the others come into the center and fix their sex relationship before you can then repair the position relationships. Okay? Because a lot of times what happens is you put them in, it doesn't matter what kind of ocean wave you put them in, you'll never get the boys, all the boys beside girls. You might have 1 square over here where you got 2 boys together and 2 girls together, or 3 girls in one line, or whatever. So what you'll need to do is take 4 of them, put them in the center of the square, and fix that sex relationship, and then move them out. Another way, or another thing that happens is sometimes you'll end up with 3 girls in the middle of the square, and you'll have 3 boys are on the outside and 1 girl on the outside of the square. That can be fixed by manipulating the center people in the square so that the girls are, or so that the 2 that are out are a tandem, so that the girl that's in the middle the boy that's in the middle is in tandem with the girl on the outside, and you just have those 2 zoom. And what you do is you say, if you're a girl in the middle, every other square has nothing but boys in the middle. You say, if you're a girl in the middle, work with the person behind you and zoom. And then what they'll do is they'll zoom back, the boy will move in, so now all the boys will be in the middle, and you can work with it that way. So there's extra techniques that you can use to fix that. I usually work on the premise of, if they're that screwed up, I will say explode and scramble home, because it's less effort, and the dancers don't have to be witness to you fumbling to try to get everybody home.
But you hear that. I mean, what he's saying is, at some point, you cut bait and move on. It's done. We're going to cut the line and go. And now everybody then can start from a clean slate, and we're back to, hey, winning.
Yep, go.
Jeff Palmer, Colorado Springs. On the other side of the coin of what he just showed you, you could also, if you know the group and the group is handy and you work with them and you know the people, you can do what he did on purpose and actually have a whole square of boys, a whole square of girls, move them back and fix it just like he said. And you can use that as your evening's entertainment if the price is right, so to speak. If you know who you're dealing with and if you are comfortable with that, then you can actually do what he just did with these 2 squares, move all the boys over here, all the girls over here, dance them around, move them back and fix it just as he did, and it's kind of cool.
I've actually done it. I did a dance where we had 4 squares, and what I did was we did the entire tip as couples. We had same-sex couples, and so when I put them into same-sex 2-faced lines, I told them that across the hall they have a column of 8, and so now they actually saw that they had a as couples column of 8, and I said, for the rest of the tip, we're going to be doing everything as couples. And then we did coordinate, we did chain reactions, we did a whole bunch of other stuff, and it was lots of fun. And then when we finished, they all finished up at home. And we did exactly what you said, because of course I went asymmetric, and we ended up having all 4 boy couples on this side of the square and all 4 girl couples on this side, and we resolved that as well. But that's not the discussion we're going to have here.
But now, he didn't do that on the fly. I mean, just one night.
Yeah, I did.
What I'm trying to get at is, you've had practice at this all the way up to this point. You're doing homework. You know what calls will move them asymmetrically. You know the calls that will bring them back together to repair the symmetrics, if you will. And that comes with practice. We need a mic. We need a mic for you, Bill.
Oh, Bear.
I'm Barry Miller, Denver, Colorado. That was amazing, Bryan, by the way. I was just wondering, I'm like Bill, we all usually just are happy to get him into dancing with the rest of the group. Who else here does what Bryan does? That just blows me away. But that to take a broken squares down and
hold on.
To
can you be specific about that?
For the recording, there are at least 4.
but the fact to see that, to go ahead and resolve the square for everybody to get that caveat at the end is amazing.
Well, and not only is it amazing, but you also still maintain body flow, danceability, and it's not, hey, let's have the 2 head men go to the center and make a right-hand star and pick up your original partner and scoop them up and go ahead and pick up the other one. And you need to write that down, Bill? And then scoop up their corner. And yeah. Okay, where that's a method, but you can get away with that once. Okay? In a lifetime. All right? All right.
So the other thing you need to know about this, and this is I'm going to name names here. This was mentioned to me by Dave Wilson, because I did this workshop for Dave at his color school a bunch of years ago in Germany. And what he said, and it's also very important, is don't always do this. You need to let the dancers know they're breaking down. You can't let them always believe that they're really good dancers, and it's like, oh, I danced to Bryan Clark, and we make it every single tip, and we must be unbelievable dancers. Don't let them believe that at all. You have to let them know that they've made mistakes every now and then.
Can you imagine them going back to the other groups and say, we did a left-handed chain down the line? Wrong, but they... More questions?
Oz,
Silicon Valley. So do you have any recommendations for a process of practicing this stuff?
Well, at first, for practicing, the first thing you want to do is get checkers out and figure out what the dynamics are. Figure out, and the handout that I think went out there, did it go out there?
It's on the chair in the way out.
Yeah, they're going to be in the back.
It's on the back.
2 chairs back there. As you leave, take the time to pick them up.
Yeah, it basically has general guidelines for what to do and what you can do with this. Yeah, sit down with checkers first. You don't want to do this to live dancers and use them as guinea pigs. You want to get the technique right. Once you sort of get used to the technique, then you can do it live as a caller. And I would say start with your follow your neighbor, where one person does a spread and like you just did, or one person doesn't do the spread or whatever. Those are the kind of things that you look at and go, okay, I know how to fix that. That's easy to fix.
And you have to maintain fluidity of calls. You can't just say, well, let's see, original, your right hand, all the boys run, and you see what I'm saying? And heads identify. Okay. You have to know what calls to keep the people moving, and at the same time, create this formula to make it resolve that way.
And the other thing is pick your battles.
Yes.
Palmer again, Colorado Springs. What I would suggest is just what he said, get the checkers out and learn how to fix one thing at a time. And once you get that down, you'll own that. You can move on to the next and own that, and pretty soon you can do just what he did in about 100 years. No, that's not, no. But you can do it step at a time.
Well, the other thing too is this really, like, being able to repair squares is a primer to learning the proper techniques for asymmetrical sight calling. Asymmetrical sight resolution relies on a lot of these little techniques that are shown here. We got Scott in the back.
It's like he says, it's the first step of understanding how that works. Who are you? Who are you?
Scott Byers, Sacramento, California. Now, I started doing this many, many years ago only because I saw a seminar that Bill Davis did many, many years ago in Northern California, and I started working on unsymmetrics then. And I did exactly what Bryan said. I started hitting the checkers and looking at the stuff and looking at unsymmetrics and how to do it. My next step was, because I have had many clubs for many, many years, I would pick one of my clubs and I would just start playing with this unsymmetrical a little at a time until I got it to the point that I could resolve the squares. I'm not as master as he is, but I do a really good job of doing unsymmetrics on the fly. And I can resolve squares, and sometimes the dancers don't know that I've resolved them into that situation.
Yeah, and the worst thing you can do is get Scott and I together on a mic on stage at the same time.
Another thing is what Scott alluded to again is that, look, this is a spice on a spice rack, like alternative music is. You don't want a whole night of that, okay? Unless you're doing that and this is your club. It's where this is the asymmetric night. Okay, that's different. But having a spice that you can go to, and I decide I want to play around with just the number one couple sashaying and going, okay, and then how do I resolve out of that? Or while you're calling, you call and notice, happen to see that one couple, and now you're going to pick your battles, as Bill just said. Am I going to take the step to just normalize them, or do I really want to go beyond and actually resolve them?
Oz again. So what you're saying is, to make it explicit, that this kind of square fixing is functionally equivalent to asymmetric calling.
I wouldn't say that it's all the way, because now I think we're getting a little bit skewed here. If you want to be asymmetrical calling, hopefully everybody else in the world here that you're calling to is asymmetric as well. There's different ways of working that, solving that, but here what we're really talking about is we have 1 or 2 squares out and 6 are in, okay, and we want to fix those 2 without saying, hey, get a line real quick over there, and everybody stop looking at these 2 squares going, well, can you make one of these? You know, this was just a different process of saying, hey, these guys are dancing fine. They haven't made any mistakes. Over here, we got a couple of mistakes, and this is a method that we could do recovering their square without a big notice of what's going on and affecting the other 6 squares. That's the key here.
I've done some, like with my club, or with the dancers who dance to me, or at least who are used to dancing to me. They know not to fix themselves. They know not to stand around, make lines. They know to just continue dancing, and I may notice and I might fix them. The other thing is when I go out of town, and this has happened a lot, where I'll do the left chain down the line and a square will break down and they'll just run for home. And then they'll try to make lines. And I stop the music and I say, I know that a caller has told you to do that, but you guys were really close to where you should have been, and I was going to fix you. Next time, don't do that. And for the rest of the weekend, they stop fixing themselves. They just trust me. And then I end up, fixing the squares occasionally. I don't do it all the time, but occasionally. And then they make it through, and they end up making more stuff than they would have, and they end up dancing more.
So you see a square that's doing this a lot with some breakdown. You got to figure out or analyze now, why are they breaking down? Is it the ability of the square, or
it's the caller,
or is it the judgment of the caller? Am I calling things that are too tough? And if it's the same set that's having that mistake, and you're having to repair that same square each sequence, the next sequence you go and you look, oh, they're out again. You repair them and you go and you look again, they're out. Well, I just might shorten the tip of the patter part of that and say, okay, obviously their teammanship isn't doing well over here for some reason, and hopefully the computers or whatever rotates the set so they'll mix around and not get in the same square again. It's a judgment call, but when you have a scenario of people giving up too soon, that's a bad sign. They give up. They say, I don't know where I am, and I give up. And don't let dancers give up. Let them try to figure it out. This is the two-way street when we opened this session today that we needed to describe. They need to know they have some responsibilities too, and that's to try and to work it out, to make one look like the others. Does this look like yours?
I'm not going there.
No, it is. That's a little side joke.
Do we have any other questions?
Yes.
Jeff Palmer, Colorado Springs. I'd just like to add to that, because he did a marvelous job. It was superior. And part of that, when you're doing that and when you learn how to do that, sometimes once that happens, the harder part is to keep everybody dancing while that's going on. You've figured out how to fix it, but you've also got the meat in the sandwich. You've got to keep going while that's doing. And sometimes that can be harder than actual once you learn how to do it. Just a comment. Thank you.
And keep in mind that you can be the most advanced challenge caller out there, and without realizing that a lot of the tools that you need are right in the first program that we dance. Everything that we did here was pretty much all mainstream. There was nothing outside of that. And as I say, you can get really cool with some of the stuff at the other levels, the other programs. I get confused so much, but there are a lot of callers out there that don't realize that these tools are built into the basic and mainstream program, And I utilize them all the time, and they're great.
And there are other tools at Advanced. There's other tools at Challenge, too, that he can, and they're on the paper that he handout, I believe, too. So,
Yeah, Dave Littlefair from Strathmore, Alberta. Does this work if there's more than one square broke down? You would do the same thing?
Yes. But as I say, the caveat is sometimes you can't get everybody on the floor with a boy with a girl to fix the sex arrangement. And that was when I went into the get 4 of them in the middle and do that, because you want to fix the sex arrangement first and then fix the formation, the position arrangement.
Actually, I have one quick thing I want to say. Aaron Byers, California. I know I'm not a caller, but one of the things you're going to have to watch out for is the first time you actually accomplish this, you're probably going to be shocked that you made it happen. So don't stop and go, oh my God, I did it.
start patting yourself on the back. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sometimes I amaze myself.
Well, a couple of times when I do this, and the dancers all get home and they all look around and like, we can't believe we made it, and they all clap really loud. I'll stop and I'll turn the music down a bit and I'll go, yeah, it's okay. It's the first time I've seen it too.
Or no charge for the little extra help. Good. Any other comments or questions in this regard? Yes, we have about 5 minutes or so. If the red is showing, you're on.
Oh, okay. Bill,
we run out of time. Sorry about that.
Oh,
So,
okay. No, a number of times you use couple looking out trade, which I consider you're identifying people and so on. I use bend the line in the same situation. Now it doesn't flow the same way, but
Correct.
it's quicker, so you can, so the dancers can adapt to that faster.
Yes, you can do bend the line. You can cast off 3/4. You can, if you're facing out trade, California twirl. If they're in opposite
right.
sex, if you're at a challenge, you can do verticals. Vertical tag back to a wave. Things like that. It's great.
Yeah. We have some wrap-up things we need to do as well, though. So we've got one thing in caveat to what Bill said here is please be careful of body flow because it does matter. When you're doing the folds and the star throughs and you just crack off and say bend the line now, I'd like to have the centers trade before you bend just to have that body flow happen to continue on. It just works a little better. Again, he had the situation where the couples were looking out and he said move forward and back. Yeah. Okay, all farting back. Right, and then so those are ways to break up the flow, the ways to kind of make that all happen and work, and to make it all gel together so that you can resolve the sets. It is a trick, but it's a great trick tool to have at your disposal to be able to resolve the sets on the fly, for the whole room to be able to maneuver that way. Again. There's a two-way street. The dancers need to own up to some of it, and the callers can do what they can do to resolve and to find things and to make it work. In the long run, they're going to be happy dancers because they just kept dancing, and they weren't standing around, and they weren't milling around, and they weren't looking for lines specifically all the time. So this is good.
And more often than not, the mistakes are simple. It's usually only two people that have screwed up. In some cases, the whole square goes down, but more often than not, it's two people, or maybe a couple, or two guys didn't trade, or something happened, and you're looking at it and you're like, oh, well, yeah, they're not correct. Well, you can fix it, especially if they're your sight square. It's helpful to fix the sight square, but most of the mistakes that people make are very simple, and a lot of times they'll just run for home, and they really shouldn't.
Shouldn't be giving up.
Just keep dancing.
Yep, Bill.
No, I'm fine.
Let's give Bill Harrison a nice hand.
Thank you.
Brian Clark a nice hand.
Yep. And
Tim
Tim Marriner.
Thank you.
And Tim Marriner.
We've enjoyed this session. This is what we were looking for, and so get out there and keep them dancing, please. All right, thank you. Have a good afternoon, good convention.
Enjoy.